Hey there, metal and heavy music fans. This is Chris Dahlberg with MetalTrenches.com, and it's time for another episode of Trench Talk. You may have read my reviews on the site or heard me guest on some previous episodes with Flight, but moving forward, I'll be doing more interviews and other content on the channel. On this episode, I'm talking to Keenan Carroll, guitarist and vocalist for Boston black metal band Lord Almighty, who released their latest album Wither on October 16th. I reviewed the album last week and found it a great mix of black metal and straight up rock and roll, and Keenan and I discussed a wide range of topics. Just a reminder that this podcast is available on all platforms, including YouTube, iTunes, Castbox, and Spotify. Regardless of where you pick it up, if you like what you hear, please subscribe to our channels for even more content as we post something almost every day. This is Chris from Metal Trenches, and I am talking today with Keenan from Lord Almighty. And you guys kind of disappeared for a little bit. You guys posted a teaser of Adrift, I think the video for it, like March of last year, and then you were radio silent until like August.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, we had a bit of a time period here where we were going through some transitions in life and all that, and I made a big old move down from Massachusetts to North Carolina. So I'm in the Raleigh area now, which is a really chill area. We got a lot of cool metal bands and stuff going on down here. So, we all had things going on for a little while. So there was we just needed a second to regroup.
So how is that working with you being in North Carolina versus the rest of the band? I'm guessing is still in the Boston area.
Yeah, they're still up there, and it's going pretty well. There was a lot of learning of, trying to get into that more using the internet style of recording and writing and things like that. But it's been going pretty well, and they've flown down a couple times so that we can write in person together as well. And so it was a little bit of a transition, but we're doing all right now. I think we're ready to be picking up some speed here.
Yeah, did COVID kind of force some of that? Like, obviously with you moving, you were expecting to do some distance stuff, but then it seems like this whole lockdown and everything that's happened has kind of forced bands to do a lot of virtual collaboration and things that some of them might not have ever done before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's been a new innovative territory for everybody. With the unfortunate things that are happening, it's just, we got to get creative. You can tell that the music industry and bands and musicians, they all are wanting it to stay alive very strongly, as I think all the fans do as well. So we have to be a little more creative these days, and it's been interesting kind of seeing what ideas people have and are trying to make more, I guess, the norm while we deal with this sort of stuff.
Yeah, have you already lost any venues down near you, or like what has the general kind of response been? Are there fundraisers and stuff? I know in Baltimore we've had a lot of people are turning to crowdfunding, and the bars that are still bars are trying to do carry out, to just keep themselves alive right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And Raleigh is no different than that. There has been some fundraisers and all that. It's luckily a pretty chill town, and the prices of rent and things like that for venues isn't nearly as steep as it was in Boston, or is, I should say. And so, luckily we haven't really had any casualties, nothing too crazy. So I've been really thankful for that, which is, granted, we're not out of the woods yet, but things seem to be going okay. I do know that in Boston, some very popular venues like Great Scott have shut down and things like that. It's very unfortunate seeing this sort of thing happen. Because, live music one day will be top tier again. Everybody wants it. It'll be back eventually. And we can't really suffer too many casualties as playing in kind of, the metal scene and all that sort of stuff. It's there's already not as many venues as you'd like in the first place as well.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of room for opportunity, and I think it'll be a while before international bands come back because just it's not worth it to tour if you're not going to make anywhere close to any kind of return. But I'm kind of hoping
Mm-hmm.
that sometime next year we'll get a return of like local shows. So, I feel thankful that DC and Baltimore have so many great bands to keep track of that I'd be willing to go with a show with reduced capacity for just locals and then see where it goes from there. And maybe we'll even get a return to like bigger bands playing smaller venues it for a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. I think a lot of people would be in line ready. If we could go to shows again, even if it is a smaller capacity type situation, I think people would be happy to support. I'm very happy to want to support bands, in this hard time. Being a musician myself, I understand that it's quite a struggle right now. Our lead guitar player Goose, he he is a professional live sound guy. He tours with Cream and does things like that. Does live sound. Runs sound for venues, schedules people running sound. It's just his life. But unfortunately, things are not moving at all in that territory. So like anything to get him going, anything for getting the musicians back out there, I'm happy to support any way we can do it.
Yeah, and I think we almost got spoiled for like a number of years. I know especially around here, this is a major metro market as is Boston, and like every tour was coming here, and for a while it was like I would pick and choose or I was getting exhausted of going to shows. So if it was just a local band show, I'd be like, I'll wait until somebody from out of state comes and then see the locals that play with them. But now everything's stopped. I'm like, I don't care who it is, man. I'll go support anybody at this point. I'll go buy a shirt or throw them some money or something. Like, you
Right,
don't realize
right,
how much you miss
exactly.
it until you can't do it.
Exactly. And I think that's so true, right? I think that there is opportunity for bands here who are kind of breaking the mold, kind of saying, all right, hey, um, I did things a certain way for a long time. It was just kind of the standard of the industry or of the style. And, I'm going to try to break the mold here and reach out. And then, since we've released Wither, I mean, we've been seeing a lot of really great support coming from all over the place. And I think it's to that credit of people are just willing to kind of support in any way they can.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk to you about that because I went to pull up the music video for Adrift, and you guys have like 300,000 views on that, and a lot of the comments are saying that I guess you guys had advertisements on YouTube either with the song or the video, and it seems like it's working pretty well.
Yeah, yeah. So actually, I think it's interesting because the thought process was, hey, we have some music that we're proud of, right? We believe in the product. We feel that it's a very genuine product. I see no reason why we shouldn't be pushing it out there a little bit. And it's people have been nothing but supportive. And I think in an advertising world, you get so used to seeing bullshit. You get so used to seeing those cookie cutter commercials, happy, perfect families, this and that, whatever, that when somebody gets slapped in the face with just the most raw, like album cover, no advertisement, not trying to sell you anything, it kind of makes an impact. It's kind of a loud noise in a very crowded world, I would think. So I don't know. We've seen a lot of really good support from that, and it's honestly as DIY as it could be done at this point.
Yeah, it seemed like a great return on investment just because I can't think of too many other metal bands that I've seen do that. And, in the world of like ad block and everybody's got that stuff on their browsers so that they don't have to see all of it, but I feel like I would turn ad block off if I was able to get more actual underground music or things that I thought I'd be interested in instead of like political ad number one or something like that.
Oh dear Lord, the political ads, man, that's been a nightmare. But yeah, absolutely, absolutely, I'm with you. And honestly, I'm so glad you brought that up, because it actually made me turn off my ad block, because I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do this. I think that it's a genuine product, and realistically, it's, if you get a record label, they're gonna do the same thing. So it's like, I'm gonna do it myself, and that's where we're at. So it's funny that you brought that up.
Yeah, have you guys thought about labels at all, or you kind of just want to keep it as DIY as possible in this regard?
So that's a complex question. There's multiple facets of it, and yes, we've definitely thought about it. I'm not really sure that I could give a straight answer at the moment. I'm certainly willing to listen to what a label might have to say, but at the same time, I don't know. I also am very happy with what we're doing right now, kind of pushing it ourselves, and believing in our own product. If you want to call it a product, our own music.
Yeah, it's like a great way for you guys just to rebuild your momentum, because it seems like you've done all the right things to get your name back out there, especially because it's been 5 years, since the last one, and that's a long time between albums for, any band really.
Yeah, it really is. And what I can say is that we're gearing up, man. We got a bunch of new songs written and mostly recorded, and so we're kind of in the mode of, we're not sleeping until we're dead at this point. So yeah, it's just, we're gonna keep pushing forward. I don't think you'll see another 5 year sleep from us in a while.
That's awesome. So how long did Wither take to write? Do some of these songs go back to like after Paths came out, or was it kind of like a burst where a lot of it was done more recently?
It's actually funny. That album was written, well, it was finished recording a while ago, probably about 2 years ago, I think. But the first song that we wrote for that album was Hooded 3, and that was written, I want to say, probably back, man, it must have been closer to the middle of Paths, while we were still working on that. That was a long time ago, and it just had been sitting waiting, and we kept working on it, trying to craft it a little more, and this and that, and but then there were others that were written closer to recording time as well. So it's kind of funny. It was we went through a lot of life experiences while we were writing Wither. We used to live in like a artist warehouse for a long time, and then there was a massive fire, not in our unit but in another unit in that building, and nothing was up to code in that place. It was definitely, I'm sure, massive health hazard to even live there, but we didn't give a shit, and it was a good time. We would practice every day. We were going crazy. But anyway, the city came in, and they they literally put boards over the door, and we would come and like remove some boards, or like climb under them, or whatever, to get back in, because it was like we didn't have anywhere to go. It was like a whole thing. So we would kept moving practice spaces, and just like practicing in other friends band spaces just to keep going. And there was a lot. There was really, really a lot that happened to each one of us during that time. So yeah, it took a while to get done, but then we got it done, and it's good to see it finally come out. I'm happy to see it, and I'm happy to see that people are really digging it. It's cool.
Yeah, it almost seemed, and I was kind of wondering if this went with everything you guys went through. Wither to me comes off almost a little more aggressive and forceful from the very beginning. Kind of Paths to me, you had a lot of softer, kind of mellower exploration, and Wither, like the first three songs to me just kind of come in with almost all black metal, with that rock and roll edge where it's like, we're angry, we got to get some of this out. That's kind of how it felt when I was listening to it.
Yeah, I would say that that makes a lot of sense. There was a lot of aggression during that time, for sure. For sure, it was. it was a challenging part of our lives, I would say. So I think you're not wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it also comes off more focused to me. It's a lot shorter than Paths, but you cover so much ground in one song, and it seems like you're
Mm.
doing it in a more focused way. But I don't know if that was necessarily like a planned thing that you guys went, or if it just kind of came naturally. But it seems like you're able to cover so much more ground in like a shorter length of time now.
I appreciate that. That's awesome. It definitely was, us trying to refine our sound more for sure. Because I think that's the challenge of a lot of bands. You put out, for instance, our EP, and then it was pretty raw. It was pretty raw, but it was also the first step in kind of our version of what we like to play. So in the meta world, so it's like Paths was definitely the next step, but we did have a lot more, like you said, longer sections. It took time to develop things, and then Wither, we definitely wanted to continue that seasoning.
Yeah, because you haven't lost anything in there. You would think that the longer songs give you a chance to branch out more, but it's like forcing you guys to almost have more diversity per track. And I really don't think there's a boring song on there. You've got all this straight up like US black metal kind of stuff. You've got that raw edge, but I still appreciate for you guys how much rock and roll and kind of just the riff propels it forward as opposed to just the abrasive noisiness of like a lot of regular black metal.
Sure. Yeah. I appreciate that. Yeah. Rock and roll is definitely the root of everything for us. Rock and roll is what made us, I don't know if we would be here today without it. So we really, really love to pay homage to our ancestors on that. It's, yeah, I don't know, man. There's something about rock and roll and a good beer and a good party. Love it.
Yeah, what would you and Goose say are like your primary influences from that side?
Oof. They're so, I don't know, man. It's tough. Like our classic is to say like Thin Lizzy and like Leonard Skinner, a little bit of that southern edge in there for sure. But rock and roll in general, Led Zeppelin, everything. It's just, I love it. I feel like that's pretty much all I listen to right now is just straight up rock and roll.
It's fun. I can always appreciate it. I review a lot of complex kind of like technical stuff, but it's always fun to get like just a strip back, kind of back to the basics kind of thing. I think of I just reviewed Hellripper the other day, which is a Scottish guy who basically does like his own version of Midnight. They're doing like the speed black thrash,
Oh,
and it's so
yeah.
stripped down and like super well done. But man, those riffs are so catchy, and I can't get enough of them, and I just love
See,
it.
yeah, man, that's the thing, right? It's like, look, I feel like I have a message that I internally want people to know what I am experiencing, but also try to relate to. And I feel like a lot of bands miss the relation to their fans. They do what they like to do, and there's amazing things that come out of that for sure. But for me personally, I want to have people relate to the emotion that we're putting through. Find a little bit of themselves in it, and I think the best way to do that is to keep it super raw and simple, where it's relatable, but also run with your own direction with it, make it sound like you. It's uncompromising, but also relatable.
I think that makes perfect sense because a lot of times I think of these bands like they're bands for musicians, right? They do really complicated stuff, and someone that's also a musician can appreciate that. But then not everybody can appreciate that. If you go to a live show and you watch those bands, they've got like maybe if they're a bigger band, they've been around for a long time, they have a big crowd, but some of them are just playing to like 20 people, and half the crowd's like, I don't even know what's going on right now. It gets a little lost in translation, and Then there's other bands where they've got some kind of a hook, they've got something you can connect to, like you said, and people might not even know who they are, but then the bar fills up and it's like it's a magical moment when that happens.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. And for us, it's kind of like, let's get those big ass amps on stage, as big as we can make them, or carry, or whatever, and let's just blast in unison some catchy, heavy riffs, and people can relate to that, you know.
Yeah, that never changes, you know. Ever since heavy music has started, it's kind of the unifying force that we have, and I love it. It's funny you say that Hooded 3, which closes out with her, was one of the songs you guys have been working on for so long, because I felt like that had the most of your old rock edge to it. It kind of had, you had the dual guitar work that reminded me of like Thin Lizzy or Wishbone Ash in there for a little bit, which was like super cool.
Ooh, Wishbone Ash, good call.
I actually saw them a couple years ago because apparently the main guy has family in Annapolis, so he plays like the main venue in Annapolis every single year.
No
And
way,
it's like,
that's
yeah, it's like a
awesome.
sit down show now. I took my dad to go see it, and they still kill it. He's got like a whole new crew of musicians now and put out material every once in a while, but it was great. It
Man,
was like, what are the chances of this? Like, you know, you think of Argus and all of the classics, and they're still doing all that stuff.
dude, what a great album that is. I love that album. Yeah, no, that's so sick. I'm jealous, to be honest with you.
I know, and that's why now I'm missing all these shows. I'm thinking about everything that we could have done this year. We had promoters here that were announcing like what they would have had coming through, but they had to cancel it because of, you know, COVID and all that. And I'm like, man,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's rough, man. It's really taking a toll, and the biggest thing about it too is the last thing to ever be able to open again is shows, and I think that's extremely difficult for everybody, you know. But again, I think I really applaud the people who are getting creative with it. You know, I think right now is a time for people to just say fuck it. I just honestly, that's kind of where I've gotten to at this point. Is I'm just saying fuck it, and I'm gonna do what makes me happy. You know, and I think that a lot of bands are just saying fuck it too. It's time for it.
I'm hoping we see some new like media platforms out of it because like everybody started doing Facebook live stream performances, and when everything started, and they put out that new terms of service that are like, you can't do this. We'll like shut your page down if you do this, and everyone's like, well, I'll just go somewhere else. I'd like to see it done in a different way, maybe through YouTube or even a new platform. And it's been interesting to see underground bands do it, but then big names like Enslaved to put on like big budget performances that are like live streams, and I think they're showing you can do it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's cool to see bands getting creative with that. You know, I think it's really cool. I do on to touch on the Facebook thing. I think Facebook is dead. I think that they have kind of taken a lot of wrong turns in the years, and that certainly wasn't a good one.
Yeah, I really don't know what they're trying to accomplish because there's like this whole audience out there, and you would think if you're a social media company trying to make money on advertising, which seems like what they're saying, and then to just say, no, you can't do that, we're trying to have it focus on like friends and family, it's like you're shutting down a whole revenue stream. Like, I don't even think you recognize what you're doing, but
No, I think Mark Zuckerberg doesn't listen to music is probably what it is. That guy's a robot. He's just a robot. He just shuts down at night. He doesn't listen to music.
it certainly seems that way, right?
Yeah, dude, absolutely. Nobody gets that haircut willingly.
Are you guys gonna try to do like a live stream somewhere, or obviously with the distance, is there a way you can do that?
There is. I mean, that's a, that that's a really good question and something that we haven't explored yet. We've mostly been focusing on this release for the time being. But you know, we also recording new material. So for us in the immediate future, we are planning on continuing to release content. But yeah, I mean, it's something that I would like to explore for sure. We just need to actually sit down and talk about it and figure out the logistics.
Yeah, I think it'd be really cool. Are you focused more on actual full releases? I know, I'm assuming because you have an appreciation for classic rock and roll that, you guys are still very much interested in like the album and EP format, and unlike a lot of the newer bands which are just doing singles now, which as an album reviewer kind of drives me crazy.
That's fair. I mean, I see both sides of that coin, but also, yeah, I think, we're probably going to be moving forward in more of a shorter, like EP territory, just because, we want to provide a bundled message, but also we want to, keep it short. I think, especially now, people are getting stir crazy, staying at home all the time, and all this stuff. It's like your attention span is pretty thin in a flooded market, I would say.
Yeah, it's given me more time to go down the rabbit hole of trying to do as many reviews as possible, to the point my girlfriend was like, "Can you slow down a little bit?" So I had to like scale it back. I'm working from home basically since March at this point, and I mean, for a while there, I was like, all right, reviews, 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 but she's not really into metal. She can't get down with the screaming and stuff like that, and we've kind of made our peace with that. But she's like,
Sure, sure.
she recognized what goes into it. I think when we first started living together earlier in the year, she didn't really know what went into me doing a review, and she was like, you just disappear for like 2 hours, and I don't have any interaction with you. And I was like, yeah, I need to consider the balance of
Yeah, yeah.
everything, because it's really easy just to get lost in the introverted, just writing and listening to stuff.
Dude, I understand. I understand absolutely. I disappear for hours and hours and hours. It's been a lot, but you know what? I'm really happy about it. It's been really just trying to put my nose to the grind here. So we're just trying to move forward and get things done, whatever the cost.
Yeah, what kind of stuff are you demoing right now? How does it compare to what's on Wither, since that just came out? Like, what are you guys looking towards?
It's I think that it has to do with how we were talking about the progression between Paths and Wither and the EP and all that. I would say that it's definitely a progression, but I also would say that it's much more of a um, fuck it territory, where we are just literally, man, I'm just going to do what I want to do. I'm not going to give myself limitations anymore. It's definitely, don't get me wrong, it's not like out there and crazy. It still sounds like Lord Almighty, but just getting a little more weird with it. I want to get weird, enjoy my life on this planet as I have it. So yeah, get weird with it.
Are you thinking maybe more weird vocally too? Because I know you guys kind of branch out a lot instrumentally, but vocals, I know you kind of keep it just super raw and harsh the entire time. Are you thinking about doing something weird with that? Just kind of trying to mix it up?
Not too weird. I would say that we're making some slight adjustments, and I'm trying to focus a little bit more on making it uh have more personality and stand out when it needs to. But yeah, not too crazy. But yeah, I am trying to, I guess, become a more seasoned vocalist for sure.
Yeah, I did feel like you were kind of front and center in the mix this time around. Like your vocals are just really front and kind of like punch you in the face when they need to. I really appreciate that in music like this.
Oh yeah. So actually, I would say, this was mixed by Philip Cope and then mastered by Brad Boatwright. And those two guys, this is, I think, the first album where we've really let go after we just recorded the raw instruments ourselves. So there was a lot of external input, which I think is amazing. It's really great having that. So Definitely, those two guys did a great job of putting those vocals front and center for sure.
That's a good lead in because I wanted to ask about that. Philip Cope, Kylesa is probably one of my favorite bands of that type when he was doing all the work with that. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
how did you guys go with him? Is that proximity because you're down there now? Did you know ahead of time that you wanted to have him work on this?
So we just went through and listened to a bunch of albums, and we were like, all right, cool. What do we like the sound of? What do we want? And we just kept going back to kind of the Red Baroness Red album, just going back to that and the sound on that. And Philip Cope worked on that, so we were like, you know what? Let's just hit him up. And he was super happy to work with us. He was stoked. He loved the music, which was good. That it's nice when you have somebody mixing who also likes the music.
Yeah, instead of just being professional about it and just being like, yeah, sure.
Right, exactly. So, it was really cool having him. Kind of a guy who's made some iconic records, I would say. So it was really cool working with him. He's a really chill dude too.
Yeah, and then Brad Boatwright, I swear he's on like everything now. Like I'll be listening to bands from like the other side of the world in like Asia or somewhere else, and it'll say, Brad Boatwright worked on this too, and you're like, how? What?
I know. Isn't that crazy? It's like he's all over the place now. It's really, really good. I'm so happy for him. Still talk to him too. I talked to both Philip Cope and Brad Boatwright. Just both of them really, really cool people. I'm super glad to see them with their success. It's awesome.
And I feel like I don't always know, but I can kind of tell when Brad Boatwright has mastered something. He just somehow brings out like the bottom end and heaviness of a lot of bands. It seems like you see his name on it and it's gonna like have that kind of like earth crushing potential.
Yeah, absolutely.
So going back to Wither, I want to talk about you've got two interludes this time, and you've almost got like this tribal sounding drum solo like a little ways into the album. Tell me about that. I heard that and I was like, this is amazing.
I don't know, man. It's probably a product of drugs and alcohol, I'd say.
As usual.
Dude, there's a huge deer right behind me. Holy hell. I'm sorry. I'm in the woods right now, and this huge deer is... Okay, now he just hopped off. He literally was probably about 15 feet from me. He just stopped and stared at me.
You're really living up to the Back to the Woods metal name right now.
Man, I really appreciate being out here, to be honest with you. It's a little... it's a little chill. I like it. I can make a little fire in my backyard whenever I want. It's nice.
Yeah, it sounds great.
But yeah. Sorry, what was the question we were on? Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, I'm talking about the drum solo on the album, which kind of caught me by surprise, and I was like, I think more albums need this in metal.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So, I mean, product of probably being very, very drunk, I'm sure. But we just, it was me and Chris, actually. I used to play drums originally. That was the first instrument that I picked up. And so Chris and I got together. We like broke down his drum set into a bunch of different pieces, and I played one part and he would play the other, and we just recorded it all together, just recorded it live. And we actually even thought it would be hilarious. This is probably a testament to how drunk we were. There's a washing machine not too far from where we had the setup for recording, so we just moved the mics over there and recorded playing on the washing machine and all that sort of stuff.
Is that what that sound is? I was wondering about that.
Yeah, that's a washing machine.
That's awesome. Yeah, you're already getting a little weird on this one then.
We absolutely were. Absolutely. And I think maybe that's just the root of it all is every time we're trying to get weird and I'm like, yeah, let's get weird. But then, we start writing new stuff and I'm like, oh, we got to get weirder, so I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and then you've got the other interlude, Stifled, which kind of has some, it's like spoken word kind of muffled, almost like weirdly like authoritative kind
Yeah.
of thing.
So actually, that's Albert Einstein.
Okay.
He's talking about the invention of the atomic bomb and how he literally was like, "This is destruction of the world." He was not cool with that. So, but yeah, that was kind of we had a riff that we had written that we just never stuck into any song, which is the riff that's behind it. And then we just kind of liked how it sounded slowed down and just kind of put it together.
Yeah, it felt like it really broke the album up really well, and that's the first thing I couldn't tell. I was like, is this one of the band members talking? Is this a clip of something? You know, it's kind of hard to pick it out, and I think you wove it into the music really well, where it kind of blends in seamlessly, and when I can't tell what it is, that's not a bad thing.
Cool. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, just trying to paint some colors up in there, make it a little momentum, a little different, a little breakup, like you said, between the songs.
Yeah, so you did press this one on vinyl. Your previous ones were on CD. Are you thinking that CD is kind of dead at this point and vinyl is the way to go? I mean, I know vinyl has kind of come back in a huge way in the past like 5, 8 years.
Yeah, I think that vinyl is a little bit more collectible than a CD, and that's just a personal opinion. I'm sure there's somebody out there who's going to listen to this and be like, "I got a million CDs, asshole." But it's like, it seems like people like to collect vinyl. It's a little bigger. You can get the artwork a little bigger. You can get a little weird with that too. And then realistically, everybody's just on the streaming services right now with Spotify being free. It's just like, so that's kind of the direction we went with it for now. I'm not saying that the album may never come out on CD, but it's not in our current plans.
Got it. I feel like I finally adapted. Like I just got rid of probably 3,000 CDs this year just for purging
Nice.
and 15 years of reviewing music. I kept probably about 1,500 CDs that were all like I want to listen to them when I work out at home or they have nostalgia or connections to them and then I ended up with another thousands and thousands where I was like I don't even know what half these are. They were just sent to me by labels over the years and I just did a giant bunch of goodwill runs with them. I said, somebody will find this and hopefully they can appreciate whatever it
That's
is.
sick. I'm so glad that you chose that route. That's so sick. It's like, yeah, yeah. Make sure that it'll magically find its way into some young kid's hands who changes their life. I love that.
Yeah, for me, it was like when I moved in, we consolidated all of our stuff, and a lot of people hear that and they're like, "Oh, well, your girlfriend told you to throw out all your music," and I was like, "No, she recognized that I had a literal music store worth of stuff," and she was like, "If you want to keep all of it, we can find space for it." But I was like, "No," that just kind of forced me to say, "Okay, what do I actually think I'll ever listen to again?" I'm always listening to new stuff. I'm always focused on that. So what old stuff do I think I'll actually keep up with? And when it came to
Mm-hmm.
well, should you sell it? Should you try to make money off of it? I was like, well, most of it I never paid for in the first place, so I don't feel right about trying to make extra money off of stuff that was sent to me, free of charge initially so many years ago.
Yeah, yeah. And you can now consider yourself a beneficiary of some young potential metalhead out there.
I hope so. That's kind of the goal. You never know. And it was all kinds of genres. That's why I think for a while we were just getting dumped with as much music as anybody could send us, and I'd pick stuff up and I'd be like, "What am I gonna do with an R&B album? I'm not gonna know what to say about this at all. Like, I'm sure I'll appreciate it, but I've
Yeah,
kind of got
yeah.
my
I
specialty now."
totally hear that. Yeah, 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 for sure. That's yeah. Yeah, man. I don't know, man. I like the vinyl. I like where it's at. Obviously, if we do this interview and millions of people come back and are like, "You better make a CD, asshole," then we'll make a CD. But
Yeah, did you run into any pressing delays or anything? Because I've heard that first there, with there were COVID delays, but there's been a resurgence and with major labels taking pressing plant capacity that a lot of independent labels have had to delay releases.
So, it was a couple months it took, but I didn't really think it was that crazy, to be honest with you. I was kind of expecting more of a delay than we had. So that was good. We had a pretty smooth experience. It's probably one of the first things that we were when we started trying to be responsible, that we actually did on time.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear. I keep seeing releases. I think a lot of bands in general are just putting stuff out digital first, just getting it out on Bandcamp, Spotify, iTunes, kind of all the regular channels, and then seeing where the demand goes and trying to get physical out from there.
Yeah, man, and yeah, that's the thing, right? You got to be careful when you're doing this sort of thing. You have to be careful for the interest of your band, because every one of these companies wants to take money out of your pocket. Basically, you put all the work in, you paid to get it recorded, you put all your effort and energy and soul into this product. And then if you pick the wrong people, they're going to reroute every bit of money to their bank account first and then give you what they think is left over. It's like that makes me so angry. um that's a hot button for me.
I always wonder about that, and you're seeing more of these companies pop up, and some of them are major label connected. Like there's a Nuclear Blast has this new digital distribution called like Blood Blast, and I've been getting a lot of promos from people I know that are bands that are from different countries using this service, and I'm like, but it's still Nuclear Blast, it's still kind of major label, but you're paying into it almost. Like how effective
Yeah.
is that actually? Or they're not promoting you alongside like Vader and all their big name bands. It's like a separate thing that they just say it's the same people, but maybe it's not.
Right. And beyond that too, it's like, what do they do with your music? Like, what kind of rights do you have to your own music? There's a lot of bands out there who signed to big labels, and then they can't even upload their own song to YouTube if they want to, because it will be blocked because of copyright, because the label owns it. And that's another scenario where they just reroute the money to their bank account first, and then they'll hand you what's left. And like, I get it, they put in the money themselves, like the label, to seed the investment, but it's like, I don't know, man. Sometimes it seems better to just seed the money yourself, and then you still own it.
Yeah, digital rights is this weird, frustrating thing to navigate, especially from like our side, because the other guy that runs Metal Trenches does a lot of reaction videos, and he's done a lot of tier lists. So he'll look at like, I'm gonna look at Gojira, or I'm gonna look at like Fear Factory or some random band, and then rank all their albums. And when you get to bigger bands like that, it's like, well, I can't put any audio clips in this because YouTube will like auto filter out the audio and then completely kill the video.
Right. And it's not necessarily YouTube. YouTube has the algorithm to find it, but it's the label who maintains the copyright. So that's the same thing that would happen if a member of Gojira posted his own song, because on his own channel, he would get shut down, and the label would probably tell him no, because they'd be like, hey, no, all the money funnels through us first. And it's like, yo, buddy, I'm the one who took all the work and did all this shit to get it here. I don't know. It gets me a little riled up that there's so many people out there who just wanna dip their hands in your product, your hard work, your passion. It's I don't know, kind of an epidemic a little bit.
Yeah, I appreciate it more when the label's role is to help with distribution for physical product and they let the band do their own stuff digitally. Like you go to the Bandcamp, you find the band. It's not on like a label Bandcamp. But then if you want the physical stuff, then you run through the label if they're doing cassettes or CDs or vinyl. Like I think that kind of
Yeah.
relationship makes sense, and then the band still has ownership. All of the digital stuff is still going direct to them, and the label is just kind of
Yeah.
like a support outlet for helping with shows or physical distribution. That seems to make the most sense for me.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. What's their phone number? Let me call them up.
Right? How do you guys get uploaded onto services like that? Like I know Bandcamp, anybody can create it, but when you're navigating stuff like iTunes and Spotify, how does that
Mhm.
work?
So with streaming services like that, you cannot do it as an artist yourself currently. They don't allow that. Spotify is in beta mode of getting ready to allow artists to do that. But it's only to a handful of artists right now. So we're definitely not on that list. But we actually used a company called TuneCore this time because TuneCore doesn't retain any rights whatsoever. What they do is you pay a subscription instead. But you have to do this. Like any band who wants to get their music on a streaming service, you will have to pay somebody something no matter what. You don't have a choice. So we had to pay TuneCore, but it's a subscription. So you pay like, I don't know, like $40 a year or something like that. And they're your distributor to get it on the streaming services. So it's much better than alternatives like CD Baby, who CD Baby will forever, for the rest of your life until you cancel with them, take money from everything and also block you on YouTube. I actually just got out of a battle with them because, we started picking up things again, getting ready for this release. And I noticed, wow, all of our YouTube videos have been blocked by CD Baby. So they just weren't even up anymore. So it was like, okay, cool. I need to battle them about that. And it was a long process, but eventually I got all the rights back for our music. But you got to be careful out there, man. These people they're predators.
I don't even think I thought about stuff like that because I'm trying to think when I started writing about music was 2005 and CD Baby was huge. I'd say early 2010s. It felt like every DIY band was doing stuff and I was getting promotional material that had CD Baby connected to it, whether it was like how they were marketing their sales or even promoting the music. And yeah, I didn't even realize that service has that level of control. It just seemed like they advertise like they're just a CD pressing facility almost.
Yeah, and they also advertise it as, no, we're protecting your music. But then when you really think about it, they just reroute all the money to them. Is what happens. And then every once in a while they'll send you a check and it's like, yo, what the hell is this? It seems almost it's definitely not transparent. At least to my neglectful knowledge, I would say. But it made me angry enough that I was done with that.
Yeah, it makes me think of when I was in college radio back in like 2009, 2010, and it was hard enough finding the budget from the university to pay for all the like digital licensing fees for like,
Mm.
ASCAP and all of these artist agencies, and I'm like, how much, like we can barely pay this. How much is even going to the artists that we're playing?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's if you go through somebody like CD Baby, then it's like for Spotify, iTunes, things like that. Spotify, iTunes, all these people, they're going to take their cut. Then it goes to CD Baby. They're going to take their cut, and then they'll give you whatever's left over. And it's like, no, 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 no. That's not how this works. That's not. That's not okay with me. So realistically, if you do it yourself and you go through somebody like TuneCore, where you pay like whatever a year to just get your album on these services, these platforms, you get like 0.0084 cents per stream.
That's insane.
Yeah, so imagine if somebody took a cut off of that before they even gave you money. It's like It's crazy.
Yeah, no, that sounds horrible, and it's funny that, we're looking at new ways of innovation as well, but I also have thought about what if the underground just went back underground at some point? Like we go back to paper magazines, like physical,
Yeah,
vinyl, stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, there's new ways of doing stuff, and even for me, like joining a website that's doing more video content is kind of like new ground for me. I still like writing and having people read stuff, but I recognize the need to change. But also, if it made sense just to go back to the 80s, just do fanzines and stuff like that again, like we'll find a way to get the music out there, even if, the technology empires and all these in between people don't want us to do it.
absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. And I would love to see more of that. I mean, there's a ton out there. Don't get me wrong, but I would love to see more of I guess, a return on that. It's really hard to gauge, I guess, your return as well when things like that happen. But it's also like, who cares? Like, shit's awesome. Like, put it out in paper magazines, whatever. Do whatever. I love it.
Yeah, that's why I'm hoping that once we get back to shows of some capacity, bands will have thought of more interesting ways. Their merch tables will have other stuff beyond just like the shirts and, music itself. Maybe they'll have more
Yeah.
ways to connect with people or yeah, I'm just itching to go to a show again. I think the last one I went to was Cult of Luna in February, and then everything locked down, everything got canceled.
Yeah, man. One of these days we'll get back to it. But obviously, like, I do want it to be, people to be safe. Want people to be smart. But I do also want things to come back. It's a double-edged sword, and I certainly don't have all the answers. I can tell you that.
No, I mean, at least we still have all these social media things for better or worse because it keeps a sense of community. It's like you still are connected with people and you haven't lost that entirely because, that's a big part of shows is you get to know people from around the world. You talk with people when you buy merchandise. Like you and I met at Shadowwoods after, reviewing the album and, we haven't talked in a couple of years, but I was like, yeah, I want to interview you. Like I want to talk to you again. Like it's just fun to chat and kind of keep that connection going.
Yeah, absolutely. I was so happy when I heard that you wanted to do an interview because I was like, "Oh my God, Chris, I haven't talked to him in forever." That's awesome.
Yeah, it's like it's hard to keep up with everybody and I think have you guys even come down this way in the past couple years?
No. It's been about let's see. I moved to North Carolina I want to say almost 2 years ago. I think in November it'll be 2 years. So no, we hadn't been around for a little bit because we didn't play shows during that time period. And then while transitions were happening, and then the last show we played was it Medium Well in Hell? It might have been Medium Well in Hell down here in
Is that the
North
one at the
Carolina.
barbecue place?
So it's at the Maywood. They do have barbecue. They have a dude show up with a ton of barbecue, which is awesome.
For some reason, that's the main thing I heard about it.
Well, I mean, it's North Carolina. You're gonna hear about the barbecue.
Yeah.
But yeah, super cool. That was a really, really good show. I think we played with Withered, which was really cool.
Yeah. Have you kind of made friends with a lot of the local scene in the bands that are around there?
Yeah, so it's cool over at the Maywood, which is like the main metal venue here. There's a bunch of really cool venues, but the Maywood, they also have practice spaces off of it too. So all the bands practice there, and yeah, it's cool. So you just go over there, and everybody's super friendly and hanging out. It's chill.
Would you consider starting any other projects like locally with any of the North Carolina musicians, or is all your energy kind of focused on Lord Almighty and kind of building this back up?
So currently, all my energy is focused on Lord Almighty, but I've talked to some people about potentially not necessarily North Carolinian people, but musicians and other bands that are doing cool ass things. We've talked about putting together something, but we'll see. I don't know. It's hard to say exactly right now because Wither's coming out, and we're working on the music that's going to come up next. I haven't had a whole lot of time to really explore. Just some talks.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll figure out something cool down the road. Are you going to do more music videos potentially? Like, let's talk about the Adrift video real quick. How old is that? I feel like the teaser was posted forever ago.
Yeah. When the teaser was posted was probably about when we had the finished product. So we've been sitting on it for probably a good year and a half, something like that, 2 years. So yeah, it's been sitting for a minute, but editing takes a while, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, there's definitely a time period where we sat on it. We were super excited to release it though. It's but you know how it is. You got to get like all your promo stuff together, like all that. There's a lot of parties involved, and it takes time.
Yeah, are you going to do more then? Or is there any song you think would lend itself well to another music video aside from like Adrift?
I think if we do another music video, it probably won't be from Wither unless if we do something later. I think at this point we're focusing on moving forward, and just want to continue to create new music. Kind of like this is really all that we can do right now. Is create new stuff and we have songs waiting. In fact, one of them has been around for a while as well. Back when I was still living in Boston, it was fully written. We actually teased it one night at a Great Scott show when we were really hammered because we ran out of songs to play, but the crowd was very adamant that we continued to play. So we were just like, all right, fuck it. I guess we're just going to play this. But yeah, so I think realistically, if the next music video stuff that we'll be doing will be with new material.
Yeah, it's good to always keep moving forward. It sounds like your live shows have been all kinds of stuff that people couldn't get on record. Like the last couple of times you played shows, was it more new stuff than old stuff?
We were mostly playing Wither stuff at that time, which is funny. We actually, when we were on tour with Barishi, we did a few Wither songs, which is probably irresponsible of us, but fuck it.
That always seems to happen with bands though. They're always kind of demoing stuff live, and there's a bunch of bands I can think of where I saw them live. I was like, this song's amazing. Go through all the recorded material. It's not there. And I'm like, what the hell? And then like 2 years later, they put it out finally. And I'm like, finally, I get like a recorded version of it. There's this band from New York called Sanguine Eagle who do like really long, sprawling black metal. And I saw them in Red River Family Fest in Texas, I think 3 years ago. And they played this one song that was just like a 20-minute epic, and it was the coolest thing I had heard, and they didn't release it until last year. So for like the longest time, I was just like, where is this? Like this riff's been stuck in my head for years, and there's no way to listen to it.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I mean, bands, we're such, I don't know, we're like, you can call us artists if you like. We get so excited about new material, but it's such a long process to get anything out appropriately. You can just like, we could tomorrow turn around and just put a song out, and I bet it wouldn't go as well as we would like, because you got to get all the promo and everybody on board. There's a lot of companies and people involved, and it just takes time.
And people get weird about demo quality recordings, right? Like there's certain genres that lend itself, like death metal people will take demos over nothing. Like they want cassette demos, things that sounds like they were recorded in a basement. But once you branch out more, like the general, I don't want to say mainstream, but almost mainstream, people that cross over into music like yours from Mastodon or more popular bands, I don't think they're looking for like garage quality stuff. They like a little bit of, you can actually tell it's been worked over a little bit.
Yeah, and another part of that I would say too is like, especially mentioning Mastodon, which I love them. They're so good. But is all of the production that goes into it with the things that you don't hear. You know what I mean? Like the shakers, the triangle, the like little instruments, the things that build up to culminate to an experience. They're very valuable and important to things like that.
And it changes the way a song sounds. I do actually appreciate that some of the like super raw kind of like underground black metal bands have done demos and then albums that have the same songs on them because they sound nothing alike. There's so many elements that are completely different that get lost in the noise of a demo, and then you hear the album version, you're like, wait, this isn't even the same song, is it?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's kind of cool to have two interpretations of a song. Why not?
Yeah, so what has the reaction been like to Wither? I mean, we're only 2 days since release, but I know between you guys putting out songs and then I know Mind Eraser has been pushing it pretty hard amongst the blogs. It seems like it's been pretty positive so far.
Yeah, it's been really cool, right? Because the thing about it is like, I love Mind Eraser has treated us extremely well. Really, really, really love it. We're going to actually continue to work with Mind Eraser on some of these next singles that are coming as well. That'll maybe we'll figure it out. But yeah, it's like, Mind Eraser, any PR company can only do so much to pitch an album. It's really the return, the amount of return of people who are like, yeah, actually, I love this. I would like to promote this. So we got really a really good response. Like, I don't know if you had a chance to read the Angry Metal Guy article that came out.
They were pretty positive about it. I
That
thought, because they're hard on everything, I usually like to gauge them for. I'm not the best at criticism. I try when I can, but after having written for so long, I generally will write about stuff that I like because after 15 years, I'm not going to spend, 3 or 4 hours with something I don't like at all. But they seem pretty, positive about it, and they tend to low score everything, which is kind of their whole deal.
Honestly, I loved it. It was like that article was written so well. It was kind of mind blowing to read for myself personally. It's pretty cool. But then we got a 3.5, and I think that's amazing because it's like as their scoring system goes, a 5 is iconic. So we're talking about like Judas Priest and Iron Maiden. You talk about a 3.5, like that's sick. I'm happy with that. I don't think, Wither's a great album. I'm happy with it. But it's no Judas Priest or Iron Maiden.
Yeah, I would say my scale is a little bit more skewed because I put you guys right at a 9, which for me, it's like the way our site averages stuff out, we're required to do enjoyability, innovation, and musicianship, and that means different stuff to depending on who's writing about it. So for me, I put you guys right at a 9. A lot of my averages are like 8s and 8.5s. So I definitely thought,
man,
you guys stepped it up.
Super appreciate that a lot, dude. It's awesome, and the article was super good as well. It's I guess the best way for me to put it. It's been a bit overwhelming to see all of the stuff coming in because This was really the first time that I think I saw, well, not the first time, but the most that I've seen articles coming in totally different languages and just stuff I couldn't even read, which was cool. I hope they said good stuff. I have no idea, but but it's been widespread, which is very wild.
That's awesome. You guys were still doing it almost purely DIY, I think, when Paths came out, because I remember I got the CD directly from Phil.
Oh yeah, nice. Yeah, man. I'm gonna have to congratulate Phil on that. That's awesome. I
Yeah,
didn't even know that.
yeah. I don't think I mentioned that when we met years ago. That actually came up is that he contacted me directly when I was writing for Transcending Obscurity, and I was like, well, can you send me a download? Because at that point, I had more CDs than I knew what to do with. Everyone was starting to send digital. And he was like, honestly, it's easier for me to just mail you the CD because my job does free shipping. And so he did that. And it was the one package that went to my apartment complex office instead of direct to my door. And they don't tell you when you
Okay.
get packages. So I kept going back and forth. He's like, did you get it? Did you get it? And I'm like, I don't know.
That's hilarious. Yeah, man. That's how we used to ship albums to Phil at his job, dude. That's so funny. I mean, I hope he doesn't get fired, but but yeah, he just kept taking albums down to the mail room and packaged them up and just kind of dropped them into a big ass bin with a bunch of other shit, and they just ship it out. They didn't look at it.
No, that's the way to do it. And I remember being like, I wrote the album up and then just being excited to meet you guys when you played Shadowwoods. And that was such an experience, that whole outdoor festival. It seemed perfectly suited for what you guys do.
Yeah, dude. Shadowwoods was awesome. We had such a really good time at that festival, man. And like, there's so many cool people there. We really had a good time.
Yeah, I think it was supposed to happen this year and then everything got shut down, so it's unfortunate. But I'm wondering if outdoor stuff like that has the potential to maybe come back before indoor shows do.
Yeah, man. I think that that's very much likely. I think that there have been some actually happening. There was something I saw an article the other day. I can't remember who it was, but in New York, they had an outdoor festival, but it was like packed. There was no social distancing, and like the people who put it on got some sort of fines or something like that. Um, but yeah, I think that that's way more likely. It's like at some point, I feel like somebody's just gonna make a truck bed trailer with their instruments and shit on it, and just drive up into a Food Lion parking lot or something, and be like, "We're playing a show. Everybody will show up. They'll organize it."
I've seen advertisements for shows online and they've always been really questionable ones. Like, it seems like some of the bands in the local scene around here that nobody likes are trying to do shows and they're like, come to this dive bar in Delaware. And I'm like, that sounds like a way to get COVID and more right now.
Whoa! I had no idea. That's crazy. See, there's a line there, right? It's like, I think it's really cool when bands are like really being innovative, but then there's kind of a line when you're just being an asshole.
Yeah, like it's hard to balance it right now. Obviously, everybody wants to be able to do stuff, but nobody wants to get sick and then, pass stuff on to their relatives and have people die if they weaken immune systems. It's like, it goes
Yeah,
into like, you got to focus on you and then you've got to focus on who you have contact with and what that means. Because
yeah,
we finally started going out and doing stuff, and even when we do, we consider, all right, do we not see parents for a couple weeks after we've gone and done stuff, or
yeah,
we've had friends
yeah,
with babies and stuff like that, so you got to take all that
yeah.
into consideration.
Absolutely. I mean, we could talk about the new Five Finger Death Punch album or music video if you like.
Oh, the anti-mask one, I heard about that. I kind of refuse to listen to that because I
I
just can't
actually
do
didn't
it.
watch it either. Yeah, I didn't watch it either. I saw the article and I was like, "The fuck is this bullshit?" And I was like, "I'm not even gonna dip my toe into that pond."
It's definitely a weird time. That's the best way I can
Dude,
put it.
It's too funny. It's too funny. I don't know. I just don't even know.
Well, and then I've seen videos of bands in practice spaces wearing masks, and I'm like, how does the drummer not die?
Yeah, dude, that's intense. I mean, I applaud them for really being as safe as they see fit, but yeah, I'm not gonna do that. But we're also not practicing right now. Well, actually, that's not true. The dudes up in Boston, they've been getting together. They're working on some shit as well. Just playing through the Wither tunes, keeping up the guns, keeping everybody strong, and then they're so when we're recording this new stuff, it's I'm demoing things down here, kind of putting things together. I send it up to them. They start re-recording their parts for that, and then they're sending it back down, and then we kind of just put it all together.
Where are they practicing now? Since obviously you said where you guys used to live kind of got like shut down after the fire.
Yeah, so there's a house that they live in. Well, not all of them. Two of them live there. Chris and Goose live there, and then Phil lives just literally like a block up the street from there. So there's a basement in that house that is, we used to practice there before I moved to North Carolina, because I used to live there too. But yeah, so they got a basement that they're practicing in, which is good because I've been hearing there used to be a spot up there called Studio 52, and that place was it was like a massive building. I can't remember, like 6 floors or some shit like that just had all practice spaces, tons of bands in there. They just kicked everybody out. Everybody had to get all their shit out of there. They're shutting that shit down. So it's good that they have a basement to practice in.
Yeah, it seems like it's happening in all the big cities. There's a bunch in Baltimore that have been shut down over the past like 3 to 4 years. It seems like all the small
Yeah.
spaces are disappearing and everyone's kind of trying to find places to go and, be able to play this heavy stuff. I mean, some people just end up doing stuff from their house. One of the guys I know around here, he lives up near York, Pennsylvania, and they do stuff in their attic. And he's like, yeah, sometimes a neighbor's bitch, but
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do. And it sucks, man. This is a really challenging time for musicians. It really, really is. And it's like we all are going to have to just find ways to really just rise above it. And that means a lot of compromises that you thought maybe you wouldn't make previously, to ensure that you are able to continue doing what you love. It's got to be done.
yeah, I think, everybody will find a way. This music is really the kind of what holds everybody together, no matter what you think of, any other background or any other topic. Everybody can come
Yeah.
together for any kind of music, whether it's heavy metal. I find our community has some of the best bonding out of any music scene I've ever heard, and just the amount of people I know from around the world and still talk to, and it's super cool. I don't try not to take it for granted.
Yeah, me too. And man, I love it. Right? It's been cool coming down to North Carolina too. The scene here is just as loving as anywhere else, if not more. It's been really, really cool. I love all my Boston homies and all that. And I love all my new North Carolinian homies too. It's like you said, it's this niche scene of just really wonderful people.
Yeah, one of my favorite stories to tell is I went to Japan in 2018 and I went to Asakusa Death Fest, which is one of the like small labels out there, does a mix of international bands and Japanese bands. And the coolest thing I didn't know about Japanese shows like that is they end early so that everybody that wants to from the crowd can go drink at the bar that's nearby. So
Oh,
like you would go to
nice.
this festival and it would end by like 10 o'clock at night, and then you would go to the bar next door and everybody would just be hanging out together. And I was sitting, at a table with expats and Japanese people that didn't speak any English, and we were just shouting band names at each other and cheersing each other, and it was the greatest thing.
I love that. That's so awesome. That really, really rips.
And you
So
guys,
tell me about the drinking culture there, because I understand that in Japan you're not supposed to pour your own drink. It's supposed to be your people that you're hanging out with pour your drink for you.
I think the metal scene just decided to not do that at all. I know that it works that way in the business scene where like the junior is supposed to pour for the senior and stuff like that. But I think outside of
Gotcha.
formal culture, it was pretty chill, and I really didn't get that there. But then you had, we were in a room with people that lived in that area, plus me, plus bands from New Zealand, Portland, Oregon, and parts of Europe. So it was a very rowdy mix. I don't know if the bar owners really knew what they were in for when everybody descended upon it, because it was cool. It was an Indian Nepalese, I think, restaurant and bar, and they did all the merch there. So you could freely go in and out of the music venue, and around the corner was where all the merchandise was sold. And so I had a hotel that was like a block from both of those, and so I would just funnel back and forth. You want to take a break from the
Yeah.
music, you go hang out with the bands who get, I think they get free lunch, there, so you could go talk to them while they weren't playing, or go buy some merchandise from them. It was a really cool setup, and I think the trippiest thing was being there on Friday, seeing guys come in full Japanese businessman attire and then like stage dive wearing their suits.
Yeah, I love that.
It was
That's so
awesome.
cool. Yeah, I would love that so much.
And I've told a lot of people that because I did, that was a purely solo trip to go to Japan. It was something I'd wanted to do for at least a decade, and it was such a cool experience, and everyone was so nice there, and just like I said, everyone that's into metal, it doesn't matter what language you speak, you can just connect with people.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. That it really does transcend pretty much everything. It's like, you'll wear, like, the other day I was wearing like a Burzum shirt, and by the other day I mean, like, I don't know, months and months ago, but before COVID. And I went into Best Buy, and just some dude just walks up and he's like, "Man, never thought I'd see somebody walk in here with a Burzum shirt on." And it's like, it just transcends. It's like, cool. We are immediately cool with each other, because you know about it. You're in the know, dog. You're in the club.
Yeah, you see a band shirt somewhere, and even some of the metal band names, I definitely get comments from people that aren't into it. Like I was wearing a shirt for a band called Opium Lord, and I went shopping, and the deli guys were like, "Does your shirt say opium?" I'm like, "Yeah, man."
Yeah, man. That's awesome. Love it. Absolutely, man. It's like, rock and roll, right? You go back to it, it's always that shock value. But at the same time, it is a little flooded. I think the shock value isn't quite as strong as it once was, because we've kind of explored a lot of shocking territory at this point.
Well, and now we're in this weird time period where shock value gets taken as actual beliefs sometimes, and I feel like you
Yeah,
sometimes have to tread lightly because certain groups will try to cancel your band if you're going too far into it, and there is a point where it's like, all right, you shouldn't be racist. That's not a good thing to be. But
sure. Yeah,
some
yeah, yeah,
bands, it's
yeah.
like, are they doing shock value or do they actually believe that stuff? Sometimes it's hard to separate the two, and it's like a really fine line with how kind of culture is these days.
It's a very, very valid point. Absolutely. Yeah, man. I don't know. The lines. It's kind of like that whole, I don't know, method acting thing or whatever, I guess, where some bands really just want to be shocking. But yeah, there is a line for sure. I don't think anybody is cool with racism.
No,
Well,
I've
there's a
met a
lot of
couple of
people
them,
cool
and they
with
were forced
racism,
out
but
of the
yeah,
scene for good reason. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, fuck that. I ain't got the time for any of that shit. it's like, really, like, why should you care so much about what anybody else is doing? It's like, I don't know, man. Leave me alone, and I'm gonna leave you alone, and that's cool.
Yeah, and it's just music, and maybe I see it differently because I don't really hear lyrics. I hear the sound of vocals and stuff like that. So a lot of times I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't even care what the song's about. I like how it sounds. I like the energy that it gives me, and it could be about anything, and I might not even know about it. So, but that's
Yeah,
just my
that's
take on it.
sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I actually don't listen to lyrics at all. I'm really bad at that. I don't know. Ever since I was a kid, it was always about the music itself. So it's funny, kind of ironic that I find myself in a vocal position. But that is also something that I am working on with the new material too. Is I'm trying to actually get a little more creative with it, kind of study more lyrics and things like that.
How do you do your lyrics? Do you try to match them to the rhythm of like the guitar work and other instrumentation that you guys have come up with? Because I know I was reading an interview with I think Incantation recently, and they were saying the way they do stuff is they like frame the story of the lyrics to whatever music's written first.
So yeah, we write the music first ourselves as well, and then I kind of just hear in my head like the rhythms of what I want the vocals to be. So it's more kind of from a like instrument standpoint, and then I figure out like what content I want the song to be about, and then I kind of just make lyrics that fit within those guidelines. To be totally honest, a lot of the older stuff was more, what do I think I could get away with playing guitar and doing vocals at the same time? Because that was like a whole new challenge for me. But nowadays, it's definitely changed where it's more about what I think is going to sound the best, rather
Does
than what can I do.
does that just become like muscle memory once you start to do it more, where you can do both at the same time? Because my background is drums. I haven't played drums in probably about a decade. I've got my drum set at my parents' house that I'm waiting to get a house where I can actually play, but I can't imagine,
Yeah,
like, I see the death metal bands doing drumming and vocals at the same time, and I'm just like, I don't even think my brain can handle that.
yeah. I mean, it feels real wonky at first, for sure. But then you kind of just get used to it, and then like a door almost opens, where you're just kind of able to do it. I mean, granted, there are definitely some riffs where it takes some practice to be able to do vocals and play that at the same time. But yeah, for the most part, it's pretty like a door just opens.
That's awesome. Do you just do like drunken courage the first couple times? You're like, we're just gonna do this and see what happens.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. For the EP, the first shit that we did, it was like just totally winging it. I had no intention of being a vocalist, but I had written some riffs and had met up with Goose, who he was like, yeah, I can record. I like metal. And it was like, all right, cool. Well, let's try to record one of these songs. And the first day that I did vocals, it was horrible. It sounded so bad. So the next day, I was like, you know what? I'm going to give it one more try. And if this doesn't work, then we'll just get somebody else. And it just kind of worked. I don't know what happened overnight, but it just happened the next day. Um, but yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, do you have any particular like vocalists or lyricists within metal that you look to for inspiration as you've like developed your own style?
Hmm. Not so much. I kind of like to do what I like to do and just like not really worry about other things so much. I think lyric wise, like Thin Lizzy was inspiration to me early on. Terry Reid, I really like Terry Reid. His lyrics sometimes are really quite intense. What is that song called? Seed of Memory. That song is really cool. The lyrics just being about basically a soldier who died, and then it transitions to his wife at home or significant other, whoever, and how they just put on a smile as they go through life, and even though everything is actually depressing and fucked up, learning about just things like that, wordplay a bit, kind of painting a picture. There's some really great lyricists out there who are just so good at that. I don't know.
I always think of it's like the simplistic kind of catchy verses versus like what actually goes into a song, because you look at like Motorhead on the surface, it's like bar rock, but I feel like there's a lot of B-sides and deeper cuts of Motorhead that are like, these songs actually have an interesting message behind them.
Yeah, man, and I think that a lot of musicians, they it's when they unlock that door that I think is really, really cool. Granted, there's nothing wrong with the bar rock at all. That shit's also important, because sometimes you just want to party, get drunk, and listen to a song that is totally meaningless. It's innate in all of us, I think, to go through both emotions.
I think that's why everybody tries to. It's weird, right? You can appreciate it and that you're going to be into it, but some people try to deny it and try to be like music snobs and be like, there's no merit in pop music or like pop rock, and I'm like, well, there's a reason people like it. It gets to like a fundamental level of your brain.
Yeah, right. And it's also at that point when you're getting into pop shit, it's like they got like scientists behind that. They're like, yeah, this is like what is actually firing the most neurons in somebody's brain. It's going to sell the most records. It's like, okay, cool, whatever. Like I can't really fault anybody for listening to anything. It's just like, again, it comes back to, I don't give a shit like what other people like, as I expect them to not give a shit what I like. I'm not gonna give anybody any trouble for anything. It's, enjoy your life. Who am I to give you any trouble?
I'm with you on that. I think my biggest thing has always just been bands that feel real, where what you feel like you're listening to on the album is what you're going to get on stage to some degree. Now, obviously, there's studio polish and other things like that, but I just want it to be like, am I going to get the same experience or maybe even a better experience when I go see you on stage? Is the energy level going to be even crazier? Or is it going to look like, because you can tell when a band does all kinds of studio tricks and then has gone above their playing ability, or something like that, or don't even play live that much. I've seen a couple of like Summerlands, which has Phil Swanson from Hour 13. They don't really do live shows. I saw them live and he was reading his lyrics off of a notebook on the bottom of the stage, and it just kind of killed it for me. I was like, this isn't any better than listening to the album if like he has to look at all the lyrics on stage. It just kind of killed the experience almost.
Yeah, it also makes it feel like it's not a genuine product that the person believes in, and I think that's really the core of it too. Is I'm interested in genuine performances. I'm interested in genuine music. It's kind of bizarre when something like that happens, though. I don't know the dude, so maybe there's some sort of reason. I don't know, but it's but yeah, I can understand exactly where you're coming from.
It's always stood out to me, that was a couple of years ago, and I always think back to that one, and then I think about the polar opposite of where bands get so into it that they're like going over the top. One of the bands I saw in Japan, and Japan has really small venues, so they're like no stage. They're almost like you're playing in basements. I think they're called Inhumate. They're a grind band from France, and the vocalist has this big deal where he bashes himself in the face with a mic, kind of like Gigi Allen. And it's like, when you're in a small venue like that, there's no barrier. And he's the nicest guy. Like, I talk to him, but man, he gets behind the mic, and you're like, we might die. But there's something appealing about that.
Dude, yeah, absolutely. It's always surprising, right? I remember one time we were on tour and there was this band playing, and the vocalist just the entire show on and off the stage was a lunatic. Like this guy was like making everybody so feel so weird, and we were like, what the hell is happening right now? This dude's like licking knives and all this shit, just like going crazy. He like smelling people and telling them if they smell good or not. It was so bizarre. But
That's
but then
nuts.
we had nowhere to stay after the show. And this dude invited us back, and we were like, well, I guess this is what we're gonna do then. We get back to this dude's house, and his wife is there, and she had cooked this massive meal that was like incredible. It was like the switch was turned off, and he was like a totally normal, chill, very loving, warm guy. And it was like, it just blew our fucking minds. And it's like, I love that. It's so cool. It's nice when you meet people like that. It's like, you know, it's not my preferred way of stage performance for me personally. But yeah, I thought that was, it was so cool. It was mind blowing.
It's mind blowing when people can transform like that because this guy off stage was like the nicest guy. He's been in the grind scene for like 20 years, so they're kind of on the verge of like calling it quits, I think, after their next album comes out. But he was like so appreciative. He would even like say that in between songs about how he loves playing Japan, loves Japanese people, and then just go full on into it and like crowd kill people almost.
That's so funny. That's amazing. I love it.
But I always think about sets like that when it comes to the sheer amount of live shows I've seen over the years. There's a band, I think they're from New York, called Vord, that filled a room with fog and then was like, the lead singer had a machete and was striking the ground like inches in front of my face. And I'm just like, this is amazing. And I've told it to like my girlfriend and our friends that aren't into metal. And they're like, why'd you pay money for this? And I'm like, I can't explain it.
Yeah, exactly. But that was an experience. It was a really cool experience. That's awesome.
How have you guys tweaked your live show over the years? Have you just tried to keep it kind of you get us as is? Have you ever thought about like backdrops or video or anything like that?
Well, so what we've been doing is we have like our cabs that are painted with like, silhouettes of birds and gnarled branches and whatnot. And then we have like LED uplighting on it, so that because the cabs are like the grills are painted white with the black silhouettes, and so we can change the color of our cabs basically with the LED uplighting. But we are not big fans of crazy, I don't know, over the top lights. We like to keep things pretty minimalist and let the rock and roll be the powerhouse. But yeah, we do it pretty subtly. It's like every few songs we like transition to a new color that like fits the mood of the set, and things like that. So that's kind of where we're at right now. I don't know as to that we'll ever have anything too insane, but still open for discussion.
It's funny that you say that because sometimes it's distracting. I can actually think of a band from Boston, Replicaire. I saw them and they had so many strobe lights. I was like, this, I can't even tell what they're doing.
Yeah, they have quite the light show for sure. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Good guys, really love the guys. Really, really cool people. But yeah, I definitely know what you mean, and that's something that we personally want to stray away from is for it to be too much of a visual and not quite as much about the rock and roll on our side. It's like I'm totally happy that that's what they have chose to go with and that they love it. That's awesome. But yeah, it's definitely not our thing.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense to me. I think where I usually like to see artists do that is when they don't have a full band. So if they've got like programmed drums or they're like, an ambient act and it's just one dude behind like a bunch of pedals and keyboard, it's like, yeah, have some kind of backdrop because you're not really doing
Sure.
much else on stage. But, you guys, you've been
Right.
moving around, you'll be vibing off each other on stage. I think that's more than enough.
Yeah. With a little subtle pop, just to give us a little bit of something different. You know that band? Have you heard that band Scissor Fight?
I know the name. I don't think I've listened to them in depth though.
Yeah, they're like old school heavy metal or whatever from New Hampshire, I believe. But yeah, they used to have a pretty big following, and I remember we played a festival one time, and the guitar player he saw that we had those LED lights, and he literally walked up to me and he was like, "I'm gonna have to steal that idea," and I was like, "Okay, cool, but you better credit me for it then." And like, I don't think he ever did, but he totally stole the idea.
It sounds about right. I think there's different ways of doing it, right? I can think of like Junius does it in a more tasteful way, I want to say. I think Replicire's goal
uh,
was just to like make you have a seizure, and their music's so spastic that they want to do it like that. But I remember seeing
yeah.
Junius, and Junius did it with like they turned the house lights off, and then the light you would get from their amps would come on during like the choruses of their songs, and it was really well timed.
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah, man. I mean, you can get weird with it a little bit, Like get weird with it. It's like again, it's like whatever. I don't know, man. It's really just about saying fuck what anybody else is going to think. I'm going to do what I want to do because I think it's cool, and I think other people respect that, but you need to make that decision. But yeah, it's totally yeah, get weird with it. Get some lights, whatever. Have a good time.
Yeah, I mean, since you've got somebody in the band that works on live music production, do you do you interface with those kind of people when you play live shows? Like, do you help figure out some of your sound in venues beforehand?
Nah, we usually trust people. We usually let the club guy do it, unless if it's terrible. I remember there was a show one time that we played, and Goose had to literally hijack the soundboard from the guy because it was like feeding back constantly between songs, and like it was just horrifying. It was like, what the fuck is happening? And there is a line where it's like, all right, this is like, now you're like destroying a band's set, where we will hijack it from you at that point. But for the most part, I think that's the only time we've ever had to do something like that. Other than that, it's like the guy who or lady, the person who is working the soundboard, there's a reason they got hired there, so we're going to trust in their abilities, and just do our job how we do.
Yeah, as long as you're at a true venue, I feel like a lot of the ones around here, we've got a subset of, we call them the Satanic Hispanics. They do shows at like random Hispanic bars, and sometimes
Oh,
they
nice.
don't always hire sound people that know anything about metal. They're just like the house DJ of the like restaurant or whatever. And that's gotten
Got
some
it.
really weird sounding shows before, but I think some of them finally started to bring in outside sound guys. I actually saw one of the sound guys that did Shadowwoods for a while was doing their shows too with these like tiny hole in the wall places.
Uh-huh. Nice. That's awesome. I mean, yeah, it's a learning experience, right? Once you dive into any sort of territory, if you're gonna start booking shows, gonna start doing some whatever, you go to a new venue. There's a new sound person there. It's like you gotta it's a learning experience. You're gonna make some adjustments and figure out the best way to go about it.
Yeah, well, I think we've been talking for almost an hour and a half, so I think this is probably a good place to stop. I'll just leave it with when you are able to do shows again, who do you want to play with? What are you trying to do and where are you trying to go?
Shit, man. We'd love to go everywhere. This Wither's been like being passed around all over the place. It's crazy. Like, you know, I saw the other day, for instance, like Ben Ward from Orange Goblin started like following us and whatnot, and all sorts of shit like that. I'd love to go to the UK, love to do Europe, love to do South America, love to do the US, you know, like, we finally just broke into Russia the other day. It was like, wow, that's crazy. So I don't know, man. We'd love to go everywhere. As for bands to play with, man, Mastodon, give us a call, dog. Where are you at? That's what I'm talking about. I don't know. There's tons of bands we'd love to play with, you know. Tons of bands. It's hard for me to pick, you know.
No, I understand that, especially in the moment. It's like, all right, I got to ask this question. Now I forgot all the bands I was going to name.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's like you always getting put on the spot with that sort of thing, but that's okay. Yeah, I don't. It'd be cool. I'd love to get on a really really good national tour with somebody headlining, somebody sick. That would be great.
Yeah, just spread the name even more.
Yeah, and just get out there, play some good stuff. I just can't wait to play shows again in general. That's going to be really cool.
Yeah, well, awesome. Thanks for your time, man. It's great to catch up again.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you hitting us up. I'm happy to do it.